Your brother will take over the family business starting Monday." The words crashed across the oak-paneled dining room like a gavel. My father's voice was cold, sharp, final. He didn't even glance in my direction when he said it, as though I were invisible. "Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin." I clenched the edge of my chair, heat rising in my chest. My brother Ryan leaned back in his seat with that smug grin he'd perfected since childhood. His fiancée giggled, whispering something cruel under her breath. The rest of the table erupted in laughter, an easy chorus of mockery that left me sitting in silence. My jaw tight. "Dad," I finally said, my voice steady but low. "You didn't even ask if I wanted to step up." He scoffed, finally turning toward me. His eyes were sharp, dismissive. "You? You're not worthy of this company, Emily. You've always been second best. Ryan has the mind for business. You have nothing but reckless ideas." The laughter swelled again, Ryan even clinking his glass against his girlfriend's as if celebrating a victory. I swallowed hard, forcing myself not to flinch. I had been humiliated by them for years. I had been underestimated, sidelined, ignored. But tonight I wasn't going to leave the table in shame. "Is that what you all think?" I asked, my fingers moving calmly to my laptop on the sideboard. I flipped it open, my heartbeat slamming in my ears. The screen glowed, illuminating the shocked faces as I clicked a file. The signed contract appeared. The company transfer, dated yesterday, under my name. Gasps cut through the laughter like glass shattering. My father's fork froze midair, his knuckles whitening around it. Ryan's smirk drained into horror, his face pale, his fiancée's hand dropping from his arm. I leaned back in my chair, finally letting the tension slip into a sharp smile. "So, Dad, do you still think I'm not worthy?" Silence, thick, heavy. No one moved. Then Ryan erupted, his voice sharp with panic. "This has to be fake. She's bluffing. Dad, tell her she can't do this." But I watched my father's face, the way his jaw twitched, the way his eyes darted toward the screen. He knew it wasn't fake. He knew exactly what he had signed, and why. And the best part? He had no idea I'd use it tonight. "You always wanted to make me small," I whispered, my voice laced with fire. "But I learned from you. I learned how to fight, and now you'll answer to me." The dining room that once roared with laughter now sat in suffocating silence. My family's pale faces glowed against the laptop screen, and for the first time, I felt something powerful, something I had been denied all my life. Control. And this was just the beginning. Richard Carter's face drained of color as he stared at the glowing screen. His hand trembled against the table, the silver fork clattering onto his plate. For a man who never lost composure in boardrooms, this was the first time I'd seen him shaken. "Emily," he muttered, his voice low, almost hoarse. "Where did you get this?" I folded my arms, steadying my breath. My heart was racing, but I wouldn't let him see weakness. "Where do you think, Dad?" "You signed it yourself. Yesterday. The documents are notarized, legally binding, witnessed by your own attorney. Or did you forget?" Ryan slammed his fist on the table so hard the wine glasses rattled. "You tricked him. There's no way he'd ever sign this over to you. Tell me this isn't real, Dad." His eyes darted frantically between his father and me, panic clawing at the edges of his voice. Richard's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer right away. The silence was louder than any denial. Madison, sitting beside Ryan, leaned in, her fake polished smile gone. "Ryan, calm down," she hissed, though her own hands were shaking. "Maybe it's not as bad as it looks. Maybe your dad can reverse it." Her words were gasoline on fire. Ryan whipped around at her. "Not as bad as it looks? Do you even understand what this means? She owns everything now. The company, the properties, the accounts, everything." I let his outburst wash over me, then leaned forward, lowering my voice to a sharp whisper that cut through the chaos. No, Ryan, not everything. Just the business you thought would fall into your lap. His face flushed red. You stole this from me! I met his fury with calm steel. I didn't steal anything. I earned it. While you spent nights partying, throwing Dad's money at whatever shallow distraction you could find, I worked. I studied. I built contacts. And when Dad made one mistake, just one, I was ready to step in. Richard finally snapped back, his voice cold, his eyes burning with restrained rage. You manipulated me. I met his stare head on. No, Dad, I gave you a pen and a choice. You signed. That's not manipulation. That's business. The weight of my words hung heavy in the air. For years, he had called me weak, unfit, not worth the family name. Now he sat frozen, humiliated in front of the very people who once laughed at me. But Ryan wasn't finished. He shoved his chair back, pointing a trembling finger at me. You'll never run this company. You don't have the guts, Emily. No one will respect you. The board, the investors, they'll laugh in your face. You're nothing but a... Enough! The word came out of me sharper than I intended. My voice echoed in the dining room, silencing him mid-sentence. Even Madison flinched. I stood, closing the laptop with deliberate slowness. You want to talk about respect? Watch me, Ryan. Watch me walk into that office Monday morning as the CEO. Watch the board answer to me. Watch the employees you've ignored look to me for leadership. Because whether you like it or not, I own this now, Madison whispered to him, panicked. Ryan, sit down. You're making it worse. Worse? He laughed bitterly, his voice cracking. It can't get worse. She's ruined everything. The truth was written all over his face. Fear. Not just fear of losing money, but fear of losing control. The power he had always assumed was his. Richard's voice cut in, low and heavy, like a final blow. You've embarrassed this family, Emily. Do you really think this little stunt will make anyone take you seriously? You're playing with fire. I turned slowly to him, my hands no longer trembling. No, Dad, I'm done playing. You built this empire, but you also built me. You just didn't expect I'd use the lessons against you. For the first time, his eyes flickered, not with rage, but with something else. Fear. The silence that followed was suffocating. Every tick of the grandfather clock in the corner sounded like a hammer. Madison stared at her untouched plate. Ryan paced the room like a caged animal, and Richard's hand shook slightly as he reached for his glass. Then Ryan broke the silence with a laugh, a cold, desperate laugh. You think this is over? You think you've won? No. Monday morning, you'll walk into that office, and I'll be there. I'll drag you out in front of everyone if I have to. His threat didn't scare me. If anything, it fueled me. Then bring your fight, Ryan, I said calmly. But be ready, because when the dust settles, you'll realize I'm not the girl you used to laugh at. I'm the woman you'll answer to. Madison stood abruptly, her voice shaking. I need to use the restroom, she stammered before hurrying out of the room. Her mask of confidence had crumbled completely. Ryan turned back to me, his face red, veins straining in his neck. You're going to regret this. You'll regret ever crossing me. I tilted my head, my eyes unflinching. Funny. That's exactly what I was about to say to you. The dining room, once filled with smug laughter, now felt like a battlefield. And for the first time, I wasn't the one bleeding, I was the one holding the sword. Monday morning came like a storm. The Carter Enterprises tower gleamed in the sunlight, its glass walls reflecting the city like a fortress. For years, I had walked through those doors in silence, unnoticed, just the other Carter kid. But today, every step I took echoed differently. As I entered the lobby, heels clicking against marble, heads turned. Receptionists paused mid-sentence, employees whispered, and I caught fragments. Is that Emily? Why is she here so early? Did you hear what happened? Ryan was already there. He stood near the front desk, chest puffed out, a fake grin plastered on his face. But when his eyes landed on me, the grin collapsed. Well, well, he sneered, blocking my path. You really thought you'd just waltz in here and take over? This isn't a game, Emily. You'll embarrass yourself in front of the board. I adjusted my blazer, unfazed. Move, Ryan, I have a meeting. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. You might have a piece of paper with your name on it, but you don't have what it takes to sit in that chair. You'll fold the second someone pushes back. I tilted my head, meeting his glare with quiet fire. Then let's see who folds first. I brushed past him, my pulse steady, and walked toward the elevators. By the time I reached the top floor, the boardroom was already buzzing. Suits filled every chair, coffee cups steaming, files spread across the polished mahogany table. At the head of the table sat my father, Richard Carter, radiating authority as if nothing had changed. The moment I stepped inside, the room went quiet. Richard's eyes flicked up, cold and calculating. "Emily," he said, his voice steady but sharp. "This is a closed meeting. You're not needed here." I set my laptop on the table, opened it, and let the contract appear on the big screen. The Carter Enterprises seal shone clear, the signatures undeniable. A wave of murmurs spread across the room. "Actually," I said, my voice firm, "I own the company. And as of today, I'll be leading this meeting." Gasps filled the room. One of the board members, Mr. Andrews, leaned forward. "Richard, is this true?" Richard's jaw tightened, his silence giving me my answer. Ryan stormed in behind me, his voice echoing like a thunderclap. "This is ridiculous." She tricked him. "She doesn't know how to run a company. Are you really going to let her ruin everything?" I looked around the table, letting my gaze linger on each board member. You've all seen how Ryan operates. He treats the company like his playground. Do you really want your investments handled by a man who thinks shareholders are a joke? Or do you want someone who's been quietly working behind the scenes for years, building strategies that could actually save this company millions? The murmurs grew louder. I caught a few nods. Ryan slammed his hands on the table. "Don't listen to her. She's nothing. Sit down, Ryan." I cut him off, my voice sharp as a blade. "This isn't your stage anymore." For the first time in his life, he hesitated. His fists clenched, his face red, but the weight of the room pressed him back into his chair. Richard leaned forward, his voice low, dangerous. "You think you've won something, Emily? You're in over your head. Leadership isn't about pulling stunts. It's about loyalty, control, respect. You don't have any of those." I met his eyes without blinking. "No, Dad. Leadership is about vision, courage, and earning respect, not demanding it. You built this empire, but you also built its cracks. And I'm the one who's going to fix them." Silence fell again. The board was watching not him, but me. Mr. Andrews finally spoke. "I think we should hear her out." Another voice chimed in. "Agreed. If she legally owns the company, we have no choice but to recognize her authority." Richard's face tightened, his knuckles white around his pen. Ryan muttered curses under his breath, but neither of them could stop what was unfolding. I clicked through the slides I had prepared, strategies I had worked on for months in secret. Plans to cut losses, restructure failing divisions, open new markets. As I spoke, the board leaned in, intrigued, their doubt fading with each point I made. When I finished, the room erupted in quiet applause. Ryan's chair screeched against the floor as he jumped up. "This isn't over. I won't let her steal what's mine." I stood slowly, meeting his fury with calm resolve. "It was never yours, Ryan. You just assumed it would be handed to you. But I don't assume. I act." Richard's eyes locked on mine, his voice barely above a whisper. "You'll regret this, Emily." I held his stare. "Maybe. But at least I won't regret being silent anymore." The boardroom door swung shut behind me as I left. And for the first time, the tower that once made me feel small now felt like it belonged to me. But I knew one thing for certain. This was far from over. The week after I took my seat at the head of Carter Enterprises felt like walking through fire. Every move I made was under a microscope. Some employees whispered support, others waited for me to fail. But I didn't back down. I spent late nights in the office, poring over numbers, preparing presentations, meeting with teams Ryan had ignored. And that's when the sabotage began. Emails went missing. Reports were accidentally deleted. Meetings I scheduled mysteriously never reached the calendar. At first, I thought it was coincidence. But then I walked past the open conference room door and heard Ryan's voice. "We'll make her stumble in front of the board. If she looks incompetent, they'll beg Dad to take control again." My chest tightened. So that was their plan, public humiliation. They wanted to prove me unfit, just like they'd always said. I didn't step into the room. Instead, I walked away quietly, my resolve hardening. If they wanted to test me, I'd let them. But this time, I wouldn't just survive. I'd win. The showdown came on Friday. The board gathered in the largest conference hall, media cameras stationed outside. It was the quarterly review, a make-or-break moment for any CEO. I walked in, files in hand, wearing a navy suit that cut clean lines against my frame. Ryan sat near the back, smirking, his phone in hand like he already had the victory clip queued up. Richard sat beside him, stone-faced, arms folded. I began my presentation. Charts, figures, projections, the company's strengths and weaknesses laid bare. I spoke clearly, confidently, refusing to let my voice waver. But halfway through, the projector glitched. The slides scrambled, entire sections missing. Gasps rippled through the room. Ryan's grin widened. He whispered something to Madison, who had tagged along like an ornament, and they both chuckled. For one breathless second, I felt the ground crack beneath me. This was their sabotage. They wanted me to freeze, to crumble in front of everyone. Instead, I closed the laptop and stepped away from the podium. "Looks like someone doesn't want you to hear the truth," I said, my voice steady, eyes sweeping the room. "So let's do this without slides. Let me tell you directly," and I did. From memory, I outlined every number, every strategy, every proposal I had built. I didn't miss a single detail. The room leaned in, scribbling notes, nodding, following every word. The absence of visuals made my words sharper, my authority clearer. By the time I finished, the board erupted in applause louder than before. Reporters scrambled to capture every second. Ryan shot out of his chair, furious. "She's lying. She's making it all sound better than it is. You can't trust her." But this time, someone else spoke. Mr. Andrews, the most senior board member, turned to him with a glare. "Sit down, Ryan. For once in your life, listen. Your sister just proved she's more prepared than you've ever been." The words silenced him like a slap. Richard's face was unreadable, but his knuckles were white where they gripped the table. "You think this is over?" he muttered, his voice low but seething. I met his stare in front of everyone. "It's not over. It's a beginning. A beginning where this company isn't treated like your personal kingdom, but like a place where people actually matter." The board nodded, several members clapping again. Ryan's rage boiled over. "You can't do this to me." "You can't!" His voice cracked, echoing across the hall. Madison tugged at his sleeve, embarrassed. But he ripped free, red-faced and trembling. "You stole everything!" I stood tall, my voice steady. "No, Ryan, I didn't steal anything. I took what you never valued, and that's why you lost it." The room fell silent again, every eye on me. I didn't just sound like a CEO. I sounded like someone who finally understood her own power. As the meeting adjourned, the board filed out with quiet conversations and approving glances. Reporters swarmed outside, shouting questions, flashes lighting up the hall. Ryan stormed past them, Madison trailing, her head down. Richard stayed seated for a long moment, then rose slowly, his expression carved from stone. When he reached me, he leaned close enough for only me to hear. "You've made enemies today, Emily, powerful ones. Be careful, I didn't flinch. I've lived my whole life in your shadow, Dad. I'm not afraid of the dark anymore." For the first time, he didn't have an answer. I walked out into the lobby, the crowd parting as cameras flashed. And in that moment, standing tall in the company I now owned, I realized something deeper than victory. It wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't just about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I was always enough. And as the city lights glowed outside, I knew one thing for certain. They had tried to bury me in silence, but I had grown loud enough that they could never silence me again.